It's time for the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Each week, Trading Stocks Made Easy demystifies stock trading and investing so you can profit big. And now, here's the host of Trading Stocks Made Easy, the wealthy investor, Tyrone Jackson.
Hey, it's Tyrone Jackson, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Trading Stocks Made Easy. I am always so happy that you can take time out of your day, whether you're at the gym, or whether you're listening in your car, or whether you're just at home and you're doing something and you've got the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast up and running. I'm happy that we could have some time together. Now, today, you are in for a real treat. Because today, in addition to talking about money and wealth, we're really going to talk about the idea of setting financial goals and having financial vision. We're also going to talk about what it means to just have a vision for your life. You know, if your life were truly a blank slate and you could create anything from where you are right now and change your life within a 2 to 5 year period, what would that look like? What would that smell like? And what would that be like on a regular basis? Well, to help engage us in this conversation is one of my favorite people. And I'm telling you, I am so delighted he could be here with me today and take time out of his busy schedule. Today, joining me on the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast is motivational speaker Ed Blunt. Ed, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Mr. Jackson. How are you, my good sir?
I'm doing quite well. And you know how I feel about you. I just have so much respect. We have the greatest conversations, and I just totally love your energy. And I'm thrilled that you could be here with my audience today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, brother.
Okay, so we're going to get into a lot of things here. You help people change their lives, and you live out your vision, and you help people change their lives all over the world, the United States, Europe, Singapore, the whole thing. But just so that my audience who might not be familiar with you, Ed, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and how you became this terrific motivational speaker that you are today?
Yes, sir. I began my work of self-discovery like most people in how I grew up, and that was the beginning of my desire to understand human behavior. Growing up in a dysfunctional home like a lot of people do, being in the midst of things such as addictions and depression and alcoholism and domestic violence, I had a desire for correcting that, for solving my family's problems. So I thought if I got really good at understanding human behavior, then perhaps I could actually fix, quote unquote, my family. And I think a lot of people, when they're in situations that they don't necessarily have a lot of control over, they want to save that person. They want to rescue their loved ones, and you can't rescue someone who doesn't want to be rescued. Most people don't even participate in their own rescue. So that pathway got me on this seeking answers to questions of how to improve one's self, how to improve one's circumstances. That ironically led me into entertainment. I know that's kind of a strange leap, but I discovered that as an artist, I could go into places emotionally that I didn't really know how to access as I was growing up into an adult. And as an actor, I was able to tap into different levels of emotional experience and go to places that most people would love to be able to go to, but they're just emotionally shut down or they're closed off. And that gave me a tour of the human spirit, an exploration of human character in ways that you just can't do other than if you're in the world of theater, which is why so many people respond to actors and they respond to movies and plays and storytelling so profoundly, because we impact people by the way we tell those stories and the emotions that we share. As I was doing that work, I came under the tutelage of one of the greatest speakers in the world, Mr. Les Brown, and he was the one that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and he encouraged me to really explore the world of speaking, because I had been doing it. I just didn't know that I was doing it. I was speaking a lot as an actor, doing those Q&As and going to talk to kids and schools and special programs. So I didn't realize that I was doing it, but he's the one that really helped me to elevate my awareness of the craft of speaking and to really take it seriously as a profession. And because of his tutelage and the things that he taught me and how to find my own voice as a speaker, I found myself in that world. And I made this almost seamless transition from entertainment. And I would do presentations. I would be on Broadway, Tyrone, with this is when I was with Denzel. We were doing Julius Caesar. And then I would do speaking gigs. I would ask them, could I use the theater? during our breaks, and they would allow me to invite groups in to do speaking, like these free events that I would do. And I just made a seamless transition into the speaking world and, got my bumps and bruises and did a lot of free speaking engagements. And eventually they turned into paid opportunities. And that's kind of how I got to where I'm at right now.
And Les Brown is a great guy. I mean, he's just absolutely sensational.
Yes.
And he's that same guy when you're talking to him on the, you and I have been on phone calls with him, and he's the same guy that you see in the videos, which is amazing. Right. He's authentically enthusiastic. Did you ever imagine that you would be traveling around the world and affecting basically change on the planet when you were younger or when you realized you had the opportunity to speak?
Well, it's interesting. You and I have talked a couple of times about vision and what do you see for your life. And I always saw myself impacting groups of people. I'm not going to say I knew exactly what countries I was going to be in, but I saw myself impacting groups. I didn't know how that was going to unfold, and I didn't even care what it looked like. I just knew that part of my purpose in being here was to touch and have an impact on as many people as I could. So as it was actually happening, I'm not going to say that I was surprised. I just felt that I was in alignment with my purpose, and I was just simply doing what I've been called here to do.
Well, you and I, my friend, have had almost the exact same path in so many ways. I never knew that I would be living the life that I am living today, or I had the ability to touch and reach people. I mean, my story is essentially your story, right? Mm-hmm. And even when, and it's always someone who says, hey, you should do this, you'd be great at, as you found someone, unless someone was that person for me and said, you'd be great at speaking to other people. I'd be like, no way. But here we both are today, and that is to be celebrated. Now, I want to talk about this idea of having a vision, right? And I like to describe a vision as what your life would be like if there were no restrictions on you financially, emotionally, spiritually, and you could do or be anything in this world, and you didn't have to worry about money at all. What would that be? And I always often say to people, what would that look like? What would that taste like? What would that smell like? Because that has something to do with what I believe is your true alignment and your purpose on this planet. What does the idea of vision mean to you? And how do you help people get in touch, first of all, with what their vision is?
I believe it starts with stillness, just being still. I think that's a lost art, and the opportunity for people to shut off the noise and the distractions and the other voices that are coming at them from the outside, and also the voices in their head, the voices of discouragement, the voices of low expectation, low self-worth, low self-esteem, low self-image. And being still and giving yourself permission to explore your imagination without censoring yourself, without putting any type of caps or limits, as you said. And if you're still, and I literally mean you're withdrawing, you're taking a few hours away from the world, and there is no noise, the phone's turned off, there's no television, there's no radio, and you got you in a legal pad, and just be still. And some people, they hear me saying this, and they're like, Ed, if I'm still for 30 seconds, I go crazy. Like, my mind is racing, I can't sit still.
Right.
And that's okay. Whatever comes up, let it come up. And if your mind is racing, let it race. But here's the thing, just write it down. Whatever comes up and comes out, write it down. And there's nothing that's too ridiculous. There's nothing that's too silly. And it may be gibberish. You may end up writing for 30 or 40 minutes, and it could be the same thing over and over again, and you may have nothing, okay? You still got to go back to that place of stillness and do it again. And you do it again until you come up with some things that are concrete, that resonate with you, that excite you. So whatever that life is for you, what you see yourself doing, the career you see yourself having, the material items, the house, the cars, the families that you're providing for, all of that stuff, just write it down, write it down, write it down. And once you see it on paper, there's something about that activates the brain when you actually write something down. There's a closeness that you get to that. And when you can look at it in black and white on that legal pad, then you can say, okay, well, here are the things that as I look at this list, here are the things that I absolutely know I cannot live without. I cannot exist without accomplishing and fulfilling these things. when you spend that kind of time and have that conversation with what you've come up with, that becomes the canvas of the vision that you are now going to begin to paint for yourself. And so let's say you come out of your quiet and your stillness with, I would like to be earning a healthy six-figure income with a successful career in real estate, and I'm providing for my children's education. I am healthy. I'm physically fit. I am happily in a relationship or married or whatever that is for you. And I'm driving a 5 Series BMW that's paid for, and I'm living in a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house on an acre of land with blah, blah, blah. So let's say you have that. So that becomes your vision. And that becomes now your obsession, because you cannot have vision without obsession. Cannot have one without the other. If you are not obsessed with your vision, then your vision will not come to light.
Now, that I happen to agree with. And I want to go back to one thing that you said I think is really great. There is something that comes with being still and writing things down. Because I always say when you write it down, it is now out in the world. It is real because it is on that piece of paper. But if you never get in touch with what you truly, truly feel, then you'll never get to the point where you can have those 3 to 5 things written down on paper, because now your brain has something to focus on once you have those visions written down. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think people, Tyrone, they create what they think is their vision because it sounds good. You ask people, you want to be a millionaire? Yeah, I'd love to be a millionaire because it sounds good. I call it sexy talk. Uh-huh. But they don't mean it because it's not really coming from them. It's what they see in the world from the things that are being projected at them, but it's not coming out of them.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I help people manifest their financial visions. And I've done this with certain private clients, and I've said, could you write down the number that you actually want? And they say $90,000 a month, Tyrone. And I say, okay, how much do you have in your brokerage account? And this is usually somebody who has, already has, $500,000. And I say, well, here's how you get to the $90,000 a month. Very often they won't do it because they're afraid of that vision coming through. And I love the term that you use, sexy talk, because I think people like the idea sometimes more than the reality of having your dreams come true. Have you ever experienced that in any of your clients?
Absolutely. They want the end result. It's kind of like the magazine covers. When you look at a magazine cover and you see the person on top on the front page, you say, wow, that person's successful. Look at them. They look so comfortable. They look so glamorous. But what you don't see are the years of failure, the years of rejection. You don't see the team of people that have been working on that person's behalf. You don't see them at their worst moments when they felt like no one cared who they were before they ever got on the cover of a magazine. So you can't put all that, get all that from a magazine cover. But what people do is they look at magazine covers, and that's what they want their life to be. They want it to be a magazine cover instead of all of the stuff that leads up to getting on the cover. So when it comes to actually doing it, that's when people start, making excuses. They start coming up with alibis. I call them well-planned alibis or excuses or well-planned lies, because people they don't want to do the work in order to manifest the vision.
And I'm so happy that you said that, because in order for every vision to become reality, it is going to take work. You are going to have to grow yourself. You're going to have to stretch. You're going to have to get an education in the areas that allow you to move towards that vision. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hands down.
And also what I have found, again, working in the money realm, I can show people, without years and years and years of work, how to achieve their financial dreams. But what I have found, and I think you'll really understand this, Ed, there is sometimes a deep emotional conflict because people don't want their parents or the world to be right about how hard it is to make money. So sometimes, and I'd love to know if you found this in your work, sometimes in my work, people will put up roadblocks to their vision, even though they say they want it. Have you discovered that?
Yes, and I think that goes back to the stillness piece, and it also goes back to because you got to have goals in order to manifest vision. And but a lot of people that I come across, they don't set accurate goals. And there's a difference between setting stretch goals that are accurate versus setting stretch goals that are completely inaccurate. And what most people that I experience, they set stretch goals that are inaccurate because it's out of alignment with who they truly are. And until they recognize who they truly are, they don't have the capacity to change. So if I say, Mr. Jackson, I'd like to, make this kind of money. You say, here's what you have to do. Well, but who I believe, who I really am, I don't think that I'm worthy of that. I don't think that I deserve that. And until I deal with that, it doesn't matter what you tell me. I will unconsciously engage in self-sabotaging behaviors because deep down inside, I have self-worth issues that I have not addressed yet.
Right. In other words, that person may say intellectually, I want the money, but emotionally feel like I don't deserve that.
Yep.
Right. And what I have found when it comes to helping people manifest money, there's this hidden belief that it's really hard. Like you always have to work hard. And there's a difference between being committed and working hard. So, Ed, for the person who may be doing vision work and find themselves up against some sort of roadblock or form of self-sabotage or feeling like I really don't deserve this, how would you work with them and what would you say to them?
I think programming is so important because if you're not programming yourself, then life is going to be programming you. And most people are living their lives based on programming from the outside, the exterior. So whatever they grew up in terms of their household, the conversations they've been exposed to, the people and relationships that they are surrounding themselves with. So the first step is self-awareness and then self-assessment. So let's take a look at who are the 5 most important dominating relationships in your life and what are those people's philosophies around success and personal development. Because then we'll find out where the leaks are when it comes to who you're associating with. Secondly, how are you spending your daily regimen? What are the things that you do daily to continue to build and develop yourself? Well, for most people, that's very little, if anything at all. So now we have to take a look at how can we incorporate some habits that will cultivate a greater sense of self-worth, self-image, self-esteem. And that's going to be coming from the reading and the things that they're listening to and things that they're watching. And more importantly, what they're not listening to, what they're not reading, what they're not watching. So having that clarity on how they're beginning to program themselves and then putting them on that regimen, it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. If you've been thinking and living your life for most of your life a certain way, then don't expect just because you tell someone that you want to take your income to the next level or you want to take your success to the next level, that's going to happen overnight. It's going to be a process and it's going to take that time. But you got to stay the course. You just have to be consistent in your daily disciplines when it comes to your personal development and your programming. So that's the first place that we're going to start.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that because when I started this process, this inner process of building wealth, right? I grew up in a household raised by a single female, and she used to tell me all the time, life is going to be hard. And you think it's easy to make money? It's really hard to make money. So when things started to go well for me financially, I was unconsciously trying to get rid of the money because I didn't want to prove my mother wrong. So here are these checks coming in the mail. This is going against what my mother told me. Wow. So I was trying to figure out how to make her right. And the best way to do that was to spend money on silly things. And I ultimately had the realization that I am not living her life. That is her script. And that I should probably go about the business of writing a script that suits my life.
That's right.
And so a lot of times we carry these feelings of we don't want to betray our family or our family history or the people who raised us by earning more money, being happier, and having more success.
True. Spot on.
Well, let's move on to this idea of now that we're in touch with a vision, setting goals. Because as I always like to say, people say, well, Tyrone, I really want to be rich. Well, that's not a goal because your brain doesn't know what to do with wanting to be rich. Like, what does that mean? Do you want to do something that makes a lot of money? Do you want to work on a regular basis? How do you start this process? How do you make money? And you have to write down a specific dollar amount because just saying, I want to be rich is different things to different people. Mm-hmm. Bill Gates is worth $50 billion. Do you think he wants to be a multimillionaire? No. Right? He probably wants to be richer because that term rich means something else to him than it does to me or you or somebody else listening. So how would you set some goals to reach that vision?
Well, I like to use stepping stones. I think you should think big but start small. So I would look at what's the first goal. So as you said, we define what is rich to you. So for some people, rich is I have twice as much income coming in every month than what is going out in my bills and expenses. And I am also rich in my relationships because I'm spending adequate time with my significant other, and I'm also spending adequate time with my kid or children. So so once we get clear on the definition of it, then the first goal is, okay, so let's have a goal for each week that you are going to continue to be the best you're going to produce. So let's say you're in real estate, you're making that 6 figures in real estate, and you have to make X amount of calls. So let's say, in order to do that, you got to make at least 50 calls a day. So your goal would be to be professionally rich and have 6-figure income. I'm going to make no less than 250 phone calls each and every week. So that's a hardcore goal. And that's a numbers goal. Either you do it or you don't. You can't hide from that. Second thing could be, I'm going to have one date night with my significant other this week. So that's a couple hours you set aside for dinner, movie, whatever it's going to be. Put that on the calendar. Same thing with your kids. I'm going to spend some time with my kids on the playground or reading or whatever that is. And so we're literally just writing these things down. And that's just our goals for the week. And they're very simple. I don't want to overwhelm people with a bunch of goals, like 10 or 20 goals. No, let's just do some simple, one goal for each category, if that's what your definition of rich is in terms of your family life and your career and all of that. And then we just chart that. And so by the end of 90 days, 180 days of consistently doing that, you're going to be much more proficient at all of it. You're going to be much more proficient at making calls, which means you can make more. You're going to be much more subconscious with spending time with your family because now it's an entrenched habit over 180 days, and you're going to be much more fluid. So now we can set a different set of goals for the next 180 days or 90 days because you've made that first step. So I believe in thinking big because ultimately the goal may be to be a multiple 7-figure income earner and to have the 30,000 square foot mansion and to have unlimited time with your family because you have the freedom to do so. And that could be 10 years out, but let's just start with what we got in front of us now over the next 90 days to 180 days.
And I love what you're saying, Ed, because a lot of it, like the way you just broke down, one goal leads to another, is also about being conscious, right? So how much conscious of how you utilize time, for example, right? And when your consciousness raises about, hey, listen, I've got to make 250 phone calls this week using your real estate example, or I have to set 2 hours aside to be with my significant other and or my child, you are now making conscious choices.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot of what people do, they make unconscious choices that aren't intentional or deliberate, and then they wonder why life happens to them instead of creating their life. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, because you and I having this conversation, to some people it may sound somewhat, I don't want to use the word rigid, but they're like, well, who plans out their life like that? You mean I got to put it on the calendar to have a date with my significant other?
Right.
Well, yes, because we're acknowledging that you've been programmed in your life up to this point. And as you just said, if you're operating on a subconscious level and you're making choices you're not even aware of, in order to undo those things, we're going to have to be consciously conscious in order to get to the level where we're consciously unconscious and doing things successfully.
Yes, and I love that because I always say wealth is a series of positive habits. So what you're really talking about is being conscious about your time and your habits so that you can deliberately put intention behind the things that you want, whether that's money, love, success, travel. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is great. We're just about out of time, and I could talk to you for 2 hours.
Yes.
Because I have done it, right?
Same here.
Any other advice that you would give for people who are in the process now, because maybe they listen to this episode, of wanting to flesh out their vision or have goals? Any other things that you think would be important?
Here's what I would recommend, because I know that they can listen to this over again and over again. Just take a couple of things that you've heard us discussing and implement them. It's all about implementation, and you have to have patience. Most people want something for nothing, and most people want it yesterday. And usually, the bigger your aspirations, the bigger your goals, And the further out they are from you achieving them, the faster you want to get there. And what most people do is they'll try it. Okay, Tyrone, I'll do these things. And, well, how come I'm not a millionaire? I've been doing what you're telling me to do for 6 months, and I'm not rich yet. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, there's a process. You got to learn how to do this. So be patient with yourself and be consistent with your implementation. Do not let a day go by without implementing what we've discussed. If you just take what we've discussed in this brief conversation and implement it each and every day over the next 90 to 180 days, I guarantee you're going to be in a different space. And you're going to be much further along in terms of your own personal sense of development, self-worth, self-image, self-esteem. And you're going to be much further along in terms of what you're actually accomplishing because you've implemented the things that we've talked about.
There's a reason I wanted you to be on this show. Very well said, Ed Blunt. Now, we're going to give people another action step, and we're going to tell them exactly what they can do to learn more about you and to perhaps start a relationship with you. Where should they go, Ed?
They can go to Ed Blunt, EDBLUNT. That's the website, Instagram, Facebook. Just reach out. I check my messages, daily. I love to just meet people and get to know who you are, what your life is about. I'd love to look at your pages and see who, what you got going on. So yeah, we can always start a relationship that way. I'm always happy to add value whenever I can.
And I'm telling anybody who's listening, you want to listen to Ed Blunt, make sure you go to edblunt.com and learn more of what this terrific man and his wisdom is all about. Ed, thank you so much. Now, wait a minute. We have to have you back. We can't just end it here. Would you be willing to come back in the future?
Of course, brother. You call and I'm coming. I appreciate you and everything that you're doing to make impact in the world and make people's lives better, and especially because you're a financial education master. So that's something that this whole country needs a whole lot more of. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. We definitely need it.
Well, thanks, Ed. I'll continue to add positive energy and do my part. How about that?
All right.
All right, that music is telling us that we are out of time. I thank you for listening to this episode of Trading Stocks Made Easy. You see, there really is a psychology behind wealth, creating wealth, and shifting your consciousness and your mindset. And that's what we were able to talk to today. In order to be successful, you have to have a vision, and then you want to set goals that are step-by-step actions towards making that vision real. And I hope you do that. Hey, this is Tyrone Jackson, the Wealthy Investor, as always, wishing you the best. Happy trading, happy investing, and do something positive today for yourself and the world.
You've been listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Be sure to rate and review our show on iTunes. While you're on iTunes, be sure to click the subscribe button and you'll automatically receive our next episode.